the news we crave. Under neon lights we take a stand. Knights and wizards across the land.
Root, 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 'cause it's cute, cute, cute. Hey, it's time to look at another one of the games that I got out of that huge package of games from Humble Bumble. 57 games for $40. This is the last of the quote-unquote fantasy games, and it's Root. Anthropomorphic animals doing cute things. It is Saturday. It is the 30th day of August 2025. It's the OGGM sister's birthday. Happy birthday, sis. You're old. It's about 1:30, and it's 80 degrees and sunny. Yes, summer is finally here. The last day of summer. Oh, well, I'm not going to complain. Steve is miserable in the heat, but I am fine. We're going to look at Root, which is cute. I think this is Powered by the Apocalypse or very similar to Powered by the Apocalypse. But other than that, I don't know anything about it. I've played the board game, which was wonderful. This is obviously a cute, comfy game. And if you have problems with cute, comfy games, that's fine. You know, that's not everything. I will say that, you know, whenever I talk about the subject, there are certain games that are specifically designed to be cute and comfy, and specific games that aren't meant to be cute and comfy. And so, you know, never the twain shall meet, as they say. And this is one of those games that tries very much to emulate that style of anime, that style of fiction, that style of anthropomorphic animals, and just being, you know, cute little animals going on adventures in the woods. The trouble with all these is the stories that these are based on, the anime that these are based on, the comic books, the movies, whatever these are based on, aren't cute and comfy. There's usually something very, very awful going on. Watership Down, awful. Secret of the Mice of Nimh, Secret of Nimh, awful. Miyazaki films, My Neighbor Totoro. There is scary stuff going on in My Neighbor Totoro. These cute, comfy things you're trying to emulate, most of them aren't cute or comfy. It makes me wonder if this genre actually exists. I mean, even Redwall and Mouse Sitter are kind of dark. The Borrowers, the Littles, kind of dark. I mean, maybe even Winnie the Pooh is maybe the only exception. You know, where there's nothing really dark, except, of course, the constant question, where does Christopher Robin go? You know? But other than that, you know, I mean, yeah, Disney's Robin Hood with the anthropomorphic fox. There was dark stuff going on there. All these movies and books and comic books and media that these genres based on, I don't know what actually is cute and comfy and harmless. I mean, the Muppets, Sesame Street, maybe, you know, I mean, there's like undertone of darkness in almost all of these, just because there's an undertone of darkness in the fairy tales that they're based upon, you know, maybe Golden Sky Stories from like Japan are some of the few but mostly, yeah, they're not as cute and comfy as you think. So let's check out Root. Now, Root's a thick baby. It's 2 books. It's 255 pages of rule book. And then it came with a character book, which was just basically a book of pre-generated characters, similar to the books you get of characters from Powered by the Apocalypse, which makes me think this is loosely based. So yeah, we've got introduction, how to explore, how to play, how to make characters, the different types of characters, our advancement in equipment, running the woodlands, doing combat in the woodlands. I mean, you know, the woods are scary. Being an animal is scary. Rabbits do not have a cute, harmless life where nothing bad ever happens to them. Then there's a sample adventure. And we got this cute little animation that's very, Bluey. If you guys are familiar with the cartoon Bluey, did you know Bluey is made in the colors it's made on specifically so dogs can see it? That there's certain colors that dogs can't see. So when they made Bluey the cartoon, it uses very specific colors that the dogs can see. So here we got a little raccoon, and he's eating his little apple, and he's looking out over the woods, and he's like, where do I want to go today? You spin the stories of roguish vagabonds. This is a journey through the woodland, acting as something between knaves and heroes. So what is Root? It's a game of woodland might and right. It was originally a board game, which is fun, sort of a resource management, area management type game where you build workshops and mills and stuff like that. And then you have the role-playing game, which obviously can't emulate all of that, but it tries. You play anthropomorphic animal vagabonds, recreants, rogues, outcasts, and renegade heroes adventuring across the woodland. The vagabonds are highly skilled and capable, but they're not really at home anywhere in the many clearings of the woodland. So they move around, traveling the past and crossing dangerous forests, taking jobs for pay and equipment. Whether they mean to or not, the vagabonds are often drawn into overarching conflict between the powerful factions of the woodland. As the faction wage war against each other, the vagabonds may prove a key to tipping the balance in favor of one faction or the other, or they may act as heroes, protecting the average woodland Dizians from the war that might consume them. Whether they do or whomever they support is your choice as you play. So right there, this is not a cute, comfy game of resource management and farming. There's a war going on. Not a lot of art, which is good. Okay, so here we got a badger, or maybe a dog, and our raccoon being chased by foxes. I think we're going to mostly be mammals because opposable thumbs, but we'll see. Here's a description of the woodland, the fantasy woodland. We talk a lot about the fantasy woodland, or the fantasy underground, the fantastic underground. But the fantastic underground is just an extension of the fantastic woodland. The idea that once you leave home, weird stuff happens. And the farther you get away, the weirder stuff gets. And the deeper you get into that forest, the deeper you get into that underground, the farther you get away from the safety of home, the colonization of man, things like walls and industry, there are things out there that predate us. Oh, look, we got safety tools and X cars. But it's a kid's game, but it's not a kid game. All right, so here we have a brand new group. Here we've got beaver, a mouse, a cat. Yeah, cat and mouse. That's always a good combination. You ever notice that there's always one predator, right? If you watched any of the animal cartoons, or Aquanauts, or any of these ones, if I have a niece, so I've watched a lot of these cartoons, and it's always mouse, bunny, panda, deer, tiger. And here we have, three little herbivore, and then we got the cat, the predator. The predator's just like, yeah, I'm eating one of you tonight. Do you think that's intentional? Do you think the creators, when they make these cartoons, know that they're putting a predator amongst all these animals that the predator wants to eat? What is the tiger going to do when it gets hungry? It's going to eat the bird. It's tiger. More rules on exploring the mythic world, the nature of the woodland. The history of the woodland is unknown. Its depth remains buried, is beyond memory and record. Recent events have left a far greater impression than the far-off history of the woodland is out of reach. The woodland itself is ancient, and the Dizians of major kinds have been carving out lives there for ages. Some even tell stories today of ancient empires or cultures that once spread out where the trees now grow. But everything's grown over it, though. So, yeah, who controls the woodland? So, obviously, it looks like the underlining theme is this battle to control the resources. All right, we were just talking about this. Lions and tigers and bears. All the Dizians of the woodlands are anthropomorphic animals, but when you think about which animals can be found as Dizians, stick to animals no bigger than a wolf in the real world. Bigger animals like bears, moose, deer, or more are either largely absent or hidden from the woodland, or they occupy a different role, stranger, more mysterious, and more dangerous. Bears are similar to the trolls or ogres in other fantasy settings. Deer are something like spirits. Moose are akin to huge dragons, and so on. There's no essential truth here, no mystical reason why these animals aren't Dizians, no ancient secret to cover. It's just part of the fable setting of Root. The same way you shouldn't worry about how a cat came to stand upright and its paws has pawns like hands, you shouldn't worry about why a bear is a dangerous monster of the forest. Yes, I think that explains what happened to the humans in this world. the cats develop paws. And we all know once the cats develop opposable thumbs, that's it for mankind. Cats will realize they don't need us anymore. Oh, I can open the cat litter by myself now, can I? Goodbye, humanity. So, yes. I mean, it's not to say you couldn't have a bear, just like you couldn't have a troll player character, but they don't recommend it. Again, if you had a tiger, it would eat all the other animals. No bigger than a wolf. There's some pretty big wolves, though. Then we got birds. I don't know if we have insects, but it looks like we definitely have birds and mammals. Here's more information: the Civil War, the different governments, invasion, the different NPCs who are a part of invasions, like Le Monde Cat as she marched to the woodlands, stuff like that. So heavily influenced by the lore of the board game. More history. Who's in charge? Not a lot of art. Normally I'm fine with that, but in this case I'm like, maybe a little more art. Okay, how to make a character. I'm already bored. So we've got the Erie dynasties. These are Erie usually means birds, but then we've got the Marquise, who are, I guess, the cats. Then we got the Woodland Alliance, who are, I guess, everybody else, the rebels of the woodland. Passionate, disorganized, outmatched, and zealous, who gave the mouse a crossbow. Then we got the Desians, which are everybody else. And for some reason now, a very familiar looking duck holding either a sandwich or a beer. I'm not sure what that's supposed to be. I like the art style. But like me somewhere. Here we go. We got some more warriors. We got a raccoon. We got either a dog or a badger. We got a wolf or a dog. And we got something wearing a mask with a pumpkin. Ooh, I love you. You're my favorite because of, Halloween. It looks like it's a little black cat wearing a pumpkin as its mask, which is really awesome until the pumpkin starts to rot. Then that's kind of dumb. And then we have the vagabonds, the player characters, the people who influence everything else that's going on by the actions or the inactions of the player character, mooses and cows and stuff like that. We will shape the world, and we will work for whoever we work for or not work for whoever we work for, and we will do stuff. And in our own little way, the outcome of this war and all this other grand politics of the forest will eventually come down to what stupid things the characters are going to do. So you're all vagabonds. How to make a character. Here's a squirrel sharpening a sword, because sure. We've invented stonework and metalworking. And we wear clothes, even though we're animals in the woods. Then you have the conversation. And the safety tools. Bleh. And examples. And how to do farming. And framing. This is framing, not farming. But how to frame a scene. How to be a DM. Moves and uncertainty. So it does have moves. So it does sound like this is Powered by the Apocalypse. And dramatic role playing. And here's a bird jumping out of the trees. I guess the birds have lost the ability to fly in this universe because otherwise they, pretty much dominate. About to lay the smackdown on this unarmed rabbit and this unarmed mouse. I suppose there's a reason why they have foregone their natural weaponry that all animals are imbued with, and instead decided to adopt humanity weapons, which means, was there humans? Begs the question, would swords and daggers and things have evolved if humans weren't around to make them, If bears were the dominant species on Earth instead of us, would a bear go, I got these claws and everything, but... because we invented swords and things like that because we didn't have innate weapons, and we were surrounded by things that did have innate weapons. But I don't know. I'm sure I'm going to find a lot of things that don't make sense about this game because it's a fairy tale. Let's see. Here we go. 2d6 moves 7 or higher. It's Powered by the Apocalypse. All right. So if you're familiar with Powered by the Apocalypse or Powered by the Apocalypse like games, the 2d6 moves and storytelling and narrative. I've got nothing but good things to say about the innate system. It does need a little work, I think. I think it's, it's got a few flaws. There's a few things that make the Powered by the Apocalypse system not perfect. There was a moment in time where I thought Powered by the Apocalypse could have been the next GURPS. It was just lacking something. But Power of the Apocalypse has been used to create other systems like, Blades in the Dark, Candle Obscura, and Dagerheart, and other games, Mass. And some of those games are good, and some of those games are not so good. But yeah, on its own, it's a simple little system that works for most things. And it's far more crunchy than you would think it is. But yeah, it's not my favorite system. But okay, how do I make a character? Here are some thieves doing some thieving. You got I don't know what that is, a rabbit and a possum. More how to play, more world building. How do I make a character? How to run a fable. Here we have a fox out gallivanting around. You could have called them gallivants instead of vagabonds. Vagabonds still is sort of a negative connotation to them. They could have just been wandering travelers. It's medieval, but with a hint of fantastic. The woodland is medieval in style. The kind of clothing characters wear, the kind of weapons and equipment they carry, the kind of problems they face will hold a fictional medieval setting in mind when thinking about the details. So think Lord of the Rings. These are the hobbits, Heroism with an edge. Focus on the vagabond band. Focus on the characters. What play? Why play? Why play D&D? Why play Root? Because we want to play D&D in a mystic forest where we get to play animals. Because for some reason, playing a mythic animal as opposed to a mythic elf is more interesting. I don't know. I mean, you've anthropomorphized and given them the same level of technology that we have, which sort of ruins part of the charm, because if you read Nimh or watch the cartoon, part of it is seeing how they adapted things to fit their lifestyle. How do I, as something that's 2 inches tall, create this technology? How do I use a fork as a weapon? What is available to me? If they have the exact same things we have, then there's no challenge. All right, finally, how do I make a vagabond? Choose the playbook. So yeah. So you look at the pre-generated playbooks, which one best fits your style, and then fill it out to make it specifically you. So when filling it out, you've got things like making notes, choosing the specific characters, because like every farmer will look kind of the same, but then you find the very specific quirks and things to make your farmer, like its name, species. We call them species, I guess. Again, don't pick anything larger than a wolf. All of them are more or less person size. Bigger animals like bears fill the role of monsters. You can't have aquatic animals. Amphibious are fine, but not aquatic. So you could have a turtle or an otter as a player character, but you don't have a fish as a player character. Birds can fly, moles can dig, beavers can chew through wood, foxes can scent other animals, and so on. So they don't have any special traits or abilities beyond what makes sense into the fiction. Oh, so birds can fly. Their abilities aren't special. They fit into the existing world. So there are just times of things when you don't have to roll. Like a mole is digging a tunnel. No tension. No uncertainty. He's just being a mole. He doesn't have to make any rolls. He doesn't have to make any checks. It's just assumed you're going to do this. On the other hand, if the mole was trying to dig a tunnel into the mayor's house, then that would be the time you would make rolls. So a lot of that, a lot of that style of thinking, which is important in any game. And not enough games emphasize that you don't have to roll for everything. There are just some things that come natural to you. That if there's no stress involved, if there's no threat involved, I'm not going to make you roll every time you fish. I'm not going to make you roll for every meal you cook, right? It's just, yeah, you make it, unless there's dramatic tension involved. So the example is perfect. If the mole's just doing mole stuff, no rolls. You're a mole. You know what you're doing. If the mole's doing mole stuff someplace where something might bad happen, then I'll make you roll. Then just getting into the details, and then the game decides to freeze. Then it asks the questions like, why are you doing this? What have you left behind? Those are important. Why did you leave home? Well, you're an animal, so chances are you have 3,000 brothers and sisters every couple of months. So maybe that's why you left home. The stats are charm, cunning, finesse, luck, and might. And then you apply points to them. Some of them are free. Do we have an example? So yes, some of them are free, but then you get some points to raise or lower them. Who decides? The GM and you, natures and drives, connections, all the storytelling things that make story path systems like this work. What drives your character? What builds your character? What makes your character? Who is your character? Faction reputation. Factions are always important. I do love, when we see a faction system done well, and what are my rewards for, staying loyal to the faction? What is my advantages? What are my disadvantages? Oh, I love this little mouse here. Yes, I've got this writ here, Mr. Cat. You've got to let me see what's in beside. Yes, okay. Moves. All right. Harm. Tracks, like how you get hurt. Feats. Weapon skills. Where are my example characters? Equipment. Load. Gear. Buying equipment. A character creation. Yeah. Okay. How to do daring exploits. Did I miss how to actually make a character? Did we skip it? Where was it? Choosing a playbook. Okay. Filling out the playbook. All right. What are the playbooks? Okay, here's a section on how to use moves. Basic moves, weapon moves, reputation moves, travel moves, hard moves, playbook. Okay, here we go. The playbook, the character classes are. The character classes are. The character classes are. All right, this is bad. It should not be 130 pages before I see my example characters. Here we go. The adventurer. That's everybody. Every character is an adventurer. There's no such thing as an adventurer character class or book. You're an adventurer. You've chosen to leave home. What is your archetype? But you're an adventurer. And then here's the innate bonuses. Here's your innate abilities. Here's things you can focus on. Some background questions. We are on page 133. And we've finally gotten to how to build a character. And no. I'm bored. I want to make a character. I don't want to go through 140 pages to find out how to make a character and see what limits I have to making a character. I think trying to convert a board game to an RPG maybe didn't work. Trying to emulate a genre that doesn't really exist, I mean, you basically just made D&D with animals and anthropomorphic animals, There's nothing very unique. It's mostly just the storytelling, which begs the question, what is my audience? Kids, obviously, kids are more interested in maybe playing anthropomorphic bunnies than they are playing themselves, especially younger kids. Much rather play the Muppets than, Kermit the Frog than I'd play my dad, kind of thing. With your kid, you want to be an animal, you want to be a tiger, you want to be a fireman, you want to be a superhero. You rarely want to be Jim, the guy who works at Target. I mean, not to say there aren't kids who, but for the most part, dramatic play, mom, dad, fireman, stuff like that. So we've got the adventure, which isn't a class. We've got the arbiter. You're a powerful vagabond. I don't know if vagabond's the right word, guys. It does have some negative historical connotations to it. You serve somewhere between mercenary and protector. Okay, that's not what an arbiter is. That's a legal term. Arboration, helping people decide, come out to things. But it sounds more like a warrior. So you'd be the fighter or the warrior, but we didn't want to call him fighter. I don't know why. The harrier, so the rogue. The ranger. Okay. The ronin. So there's an Oriental culture in the forest. That doesn't seem to be very medieval. That does seem to enter a whole nother weird subcategory of, weirdness. So there's an Oriental culture somewhere in the woodland, because Ronin is very specific to a very specific culture and a very specific time during that culture. And during the time that Ronins are very specific, medieval England, fantastical forest, and medieval Asia didn't have a lot of connection. This. The time of the samurai and Ronins was much later than the time of knights and stuff like that. But whatever. Okay. Again, Ronin doesn't seem to be a class. Just seems to be a choice, an archetype, a background. The scoundrel. We already have a scoundrel, but this is a different type of scoundrel. The lucky, dangerous vagabond. Here's our cute little black cat wearing the mask made out of a pumpkin, which is so cute until you realize that's going to start rotting in like seconds. You've got a gooey pumpkin on your face, dude. Couldn't you have made your mask out of a leaf or a piece of wood or leather or something? But okay, so we have a harrier and we have a scoundrel. This one is the lucky, dangerous vagabond, troublemaker. So we have two different rogues. This is more of a bard, I guess, or a luck-based scoundrel. We've got the thief. So we've got three rogue types. This is the cunning criminal vagabond. Again, vagabond, not the best choice of words. The tinker. Okay, so we have some level of technology in this world. Craftsmanship. Looks like we've got blacksmith smith. We saw grinding things. So we got that level of technology that's appropriate for the time period this is trying to emulate. I'm an adventurer and I'm tinkering. What am I going to do while everybody else is adventuring? I'll fix their gear. I'll build traps. I'll tinker a suit of mech. No, stop it. Oh, then we have the vagrant, the charming savior. How is this different than the three other rogue classes that we have? Vagrant also kind of a negative connotation to it. Perhaps you should have looked up what these words mean before you use them for your game. And that's it. We have no casters, no magic users, no clerics, no nothing. Then we have advancement and equipment. And then stuff like that. How to get advancement, how to get adventurings, what advancement gets you, blah, 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 blah. How to run the woodland at war, and then a sample adventure. All right, I'm not going to keep going because I don't like this, which is strange because I thought I would. I love the idea. I've always loved the idea of cute anthropomorphic animals. Secret of Nimh is one of my favorite movies. My whole concept of goblins and kobolds is based around Secret of Nimh. Around how the littles, the borrowers, how something every day that we don't take for granted becomes something different in the hands of something that much smaller. And then spending so much of my life, working with kids and seeing how somebody who's 2 feet tall, 3 feet tall navigates the world, and what becomes what in their hands, And then thinking about, well, we just see trash, but a goblin might see an entire arsenal of potential things that they could use because they're smaller, right? So I love that idea. And I enjoyed playing the board game, but I like resource management board games anyway, so it doesn't really matter. There are a lot of choices in this that don't make sense to me. Like, why suddenly toss in Ronin in the mystical European forest or the mystical American forest? Why the word choices? Because most of the word choices you chose are negative, and several of the classes are exactly the same. And Powered by the Apocalypse doesn't really work with some genres. It's like, Savage Worlds, works very specifically with certain genres, and there's certain genres it doesn't work with. D20 level base works very well with certain genres, and there's other genres where it doesn't work. Powered by the Apocalypse, the on its own, the 2d6 system with the storytelling works very best when it's simple. The original rules are like 8 pages. And then the first setting for Powered by the Apocalypse, the post-apocalypse, punk rock post-apocalypse game book is like 40 pages. And if you ignore the sex stuff, which for some reason is in there, and I've never understood why, it's like it doesn't take up a lot of space because a lot of it is storytelling. And if this is a game about storytelling and, I do this, I describe this, that's that story game style of play, you don't need a lot of rules. You don't need 100 pages describing the woodlands. Sure, okay, it's expensive. It's part of the experience. The mystic woodlands are what tell the story. You're adventuring in the mystic woodlands. Yeah, but I'd rather make the mystic woodlands my own than become involved in this. And there's no spell casting. Innately magical world with no innately magical abilities. I didn't see spell casting. Maybe I was wrong. I didn't see a magic system. Did I miss it? Here's the sample. I don't want to say there's no spell casting and then have somebody go, no, you missed it. There's a huge spell casting section. So here's the playbooks. Here's the adventurer player book. That's not a class, guys. Here's your abilities, your drives, your reputation, your different abilities. I don't see anything like spell casting. Here's the arbiter. So, yeah, no spell casting there. Here's the harrier. No, nothing like spell casting there. There's the ranger. No, here's the completely unnecessary Ronin. And now we're going to introduce one Oriental class. I assume they have further Oriental classes, maybe in the next book. I don't know. Why add the Orient? No real need. Here we have our scoundrel. Here we have our thief, which is the same thing. Here we have our tech. So we've got a tinker. He can toolbox, he can repair, he can jury rig, you can dismantle things. Here we've got our vagrant. But no real magic. And then that's it. Then some different examples. How to create NPCs. Yeah, so there's no magic. So I was not wrong. There's no spell casting. It's an innately magic world of magical creatures, no magic. Now, I try and find something positive in every one of these, even the ones that I don't like. But there's not enough art. And usually that's my main thing I complain about. But This one feels like it needs a little more art to capture the feel. It's too big. This is a very simple premise that doesn't need 240 pages plus a completely separate book. Yeah. Would I play it? Sure. Who wouldn't want to be an anthropomorphic dog? But there are better anthropomorphic animal games out there that do the same thing. And there are better systems. I have repeatedly said, Powered by the Apocalypse would have been the next GURPS, except it was missing one thing. And I'm still, to this day, not sure what the one thing is. What's the one thing that GURPS had that made it so big for when it was big? And then why did GURPS fail? You know, because people love point-based systems. And GURPS took the point-based system and really boiled it down to a very simple point-based system. Powered by the Apocalypse works. It's a very simple success-failure system designed around very simple concepts. And when those simple concepts are explored correctly, like with Mass or every, Monster of the Week or the original Powered by the Apocalypse, it works. But there are other systems where it doesn't work, like Daggerheart and Candle Obscura, because Daggerheart and Candle Obscura are basically based upon Blades in the Dark, and Blades in the Dark is basically a rewrite of Powered by the Apocalypse. So, and those are examples of games where it didn't work. You had to add all these gimmicks to Daggerheart to make Daggerheart work. And as we've discussed several times this week, Daggerheart doesn't work. But that's a separate topic that we've talked about way too much. So in closing, I see, if you've got kids who want to do anthropomorphic animals, there's better games out there that are cheaper. I really, I'm trying, but there's nothing about this game that screams out to me, play this game, which I thought I would like this game. And again, I like the idea of cute anthropomorphic animals doing, Borrowers, The Littles, Secret of Nimh, Robin Hood, the Muppets, Fraggles, Smurfs type adventure. I love teeny people doing things in the big world, and how that world, our backyard, becomes a kingdom of adventuring when you're a 2-year-old. Your backyard becomes a kingdom of adventuring when you're an anthropomorphic mouse. And exploring that is one of the genres I love. This doesn't do it. This is just basically people in animal suits with storytelling stuff, using a system that was designed to emulate one very specific style of almost, romantic style storytelling type of play, and then trying to make something else. And then for some reason you toss in a Ronin, and every one of the classes has names that are sort of like, do you really want to use Vagabond and Vagrant? And those are negative names, I don't know. So I got to say this one's a no. Yeah, sorry, guys. I really thought I'd like this one more. But in closing, this game is not for me. And I think that if there is an audience for this genre, there are games that do it better. That said, please use the link down below to pick up a game. Or if you want to support me and you appreciate the nonsense that comes out of my mouth every day, you can buy me a coffee. Use the Ko-Fi link to support me. Because I don't get any money from the ads, guys. I don't get any money from being an affiliate. If you want something more tangible, I am a Only Crits affiliate, so you can get yourself a set of amazing dice. I've been using my Only Crits dice. They have yet to fail me since I got my set. Of course, the best way to support me is to head on over to Drive-Thru and buy either one of my products that I have for sale, still marked down for $6, both of which I'm in the process of rewriting. So it's a great time to pick them up and explore the wacky world that is my brain. And if none of those are something you can do because, you're hard up financially and you don't think I'm worth it or whatever, at the end of the day, all I really want is for you to say, hey, I really enjoyed listening to you talk for these past 40 minutes, OGGM. Thanks for sharing your insight with us. We appreciate you. Thanks for trying to make the world a little better place. Now get out of here.
Monsters lurking in the night. Heroes ready for the fight. Dice are clattering on the wood. Storylines misunderstood. Get the latest buzz from afar. Tabletops bursting like a star. No rules, just might and magic dust. In these worlds we place our trust.